my 2-year-old son. We can't find him.
Some people are always going to be pointing a finger at each other in this. This is how it's going to be. And it won't matter what I say, it's just how it is.
We went to Idaho Falls to find Isaac. He lives here. In fact, everyone at that family campsite when DeOrr disappeared is from Idaho Falls. Vernal, DeOrr's dad, and Jessica, plus her grandpa Bob. But Isaac Reinwand didn't quite fit in with the rest. He's the only camper who isn't family, and he hadn't met DeOrr's parents until that trip. We found Isaac outside his house.
Some people thought it was strange that it was a family trip and you were there.
Right. I know. I don't know. Bob invited me, so I went. I thought it was kind of strange a little bit to myself, but we'd kind of been planning it for, about a week. Just wanted to get up there and get out of the town. Bob wanted to show me a couple spots where he used to go up when he was a kid. So that's what we did.
Bob is Jessica's granddad, DeOrr's great-grandfather. Bob used to live in Isaac's neighborhood.
Yeah, he'd hired me to weed out his garden and stuff like that.
Yeah, became friends.
And then we just became friends, and we lived right next to each other for, a little over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been with Bob Walton, I think his last name is Walton, for a long time.
We checked. Walton really is Bob's last name. It was kind of surprising to hear Isaac question that when they've been friends for 5 years. We wondered, how well do they even know one another? Bob says a few months after that camping trip, they stopped being friends. What we really wanted to know is, why did Bob invite Isaac to go with him on the trip in the first place? This was his answer.
Yeah, he did work for me. We went fishing, and when you get so old and you run around the hills, you got to have somebody there in case you keel over.
Remember, Jessica says she was on this trip as Bob's caretaker. DeOrr's father, Vernal, and Isaac were the others at the campsite when the 2-year-old disappeared. The family all called out Isaac in these recordings. That got the private investigator asking questions.
From day one, Jessica and Vernal kept trying to steer us as investigators to Isaac. Well, Isaac's a weirdo. Isaac, does this. Isaac does that.
I never really got a feel for him, like his personality. He really didn't talk to us. Really kind of was just odd.
They keep bringing up Isaac, and he's creepy, and he's weird, and he's odd.
I said, when you came walking up to camp, did you see my son? Did you cross paths? The response I got pissed me off. Because he said, and I quote, I don't know. I looked at him and I said, when is the last time you seen my son? And again, I got, I don't know. And I said, you better start knowing something real fast.
I just rather put it behind me, but people keep coming to me, bringing it up, and it's just kind of getting annoying. I don't really want to even talk about it anymore. I was just a friend of the family. I was up there, and next thing you know, he's gone. I'm not supposed to release a whole lot of information, so I just said that all I can basically say that he was up there with us. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Why aren't you supposed to release information? Who told you not to talk about it?
They said didn't really go into detail. The feds and the Bonneville County Sheriff here.
So the feds and the sheriff told him not to talk, but he chose to speak to us on camera about DeOrr. Our investigation took a turn when we found out what the family said about Isaac.
Do you trust Isaac?
But for what? I mean,
Would you trust him to spend the night in your house?
no,
Would you trust him to watch your grandson?
no,
Do you trust him to not steal your money?
no.
Why are you friends with him? If you don't trust him, why would you?
Well, you know what? That's a hell of a question.
You're right.
I had my eye on what was going on all the time. And that's the way it is.
In the middle of Jessica's interview, she starts telling a story about Isaac and a shovel. Listen to this.
When they picked the shovel up out of the ground, because it looked like it had been used recently, like it was kind of muddy, and at the very tip of it there was a blonde hair that was like the same color as little man's. When the cops asked Isaac about it, they took him away from the campground, asked him questions, and he came back and he ran his hands up and down the shovel. And I'm like, if somebody asked me about this shovel that might be involved with something, why would you, I wouldn't go run my hands all over it. Like, I wouldn't even want to be near that. And the hair, when the guy picked up the shovel, I went to go grab it and the wind blew and blew it right off the shovel. And so we lost that.
So a lost piece of hair? Is that really the only trace of DeOrr found at the campsite? Now, there's no way to know. DeOrr's been missing for more than 2 years, and since day one, the 2-year-old's mom and dad considered Isaac a suspect. The private investigators hired by the family aren't so sure about that.
4 times he's been interviewed by us. Isaac's story has never changed.
I think the only people that know what happened on that mountain, in my mind, is Grandpa, Vernal, and Jessica. I really don't think Isaac knows.
So the private investigators seem to think Isaac doesn't know what happened. But then comes a new lead in our investigation. Jessica reveals a mystery man who may be to blame. Could DeOrr have been abducted after all?
I would look over and he would be staring at little man. No expression on his face.
Next, suspects are named in the case.